From the Ramayana. Thank you so much. Thank you. There's a story that... Thank you. There's a story that Sita Devi was once traveling by palanquin, and the common people on the roadside wanted to see her, and she didn't know what to do. She was all, behind curtains in this palanquin. So she asked Lord Ram, what should she do? And Lord Ram told her, I think this instruction is really beautiful. He told her, show yourself to them. He said, a woman is not protected by any kind of covering. A woman is protected by her own sattvic, dharmic qualities. So that's a beautiful story, a little short story. And about Jhanavi Devi, I was personally very inspired by Srila Prabhupada when I was a young devotee, when he told me about how Jhanavi Devi was really leading the Sankirtan movement after the disappearance of her husband, Lord Nityananda Prabhu. And she actually, it's understood that she, along with Narottam Das Thakur and Srinivasacharya, at the historic Kheturigram Gaur Purnima festival, she was the most esteemed guest. She was worshipped by everyone there. And actually, when she came to Radhakund, she was worshipped by the Goswamis. And at this Kheturigram festival, she, along with Srinivas and Narottam, they actually codified the whole Gaudiya Vaishnav theology, because devotees from Puri had been worshipping in a certain way, emphasizing Lord Jagannath. Devotees from Vrindavan had been emphasizing Radha Krishna, and devotees from Navadvip were emphasizing Gaur Nitai. So when they brought all these different disparate groups together, things were kind of brought together in a codified form. So she was most worshipable by all the devotees. Her preaching was extraordinary. She once delivered a band of thieves, just like her husband Nityananda had done in the past. So she's most extraordinary. In Krishna Lila, she is Ananga Manjari, the younger sister of Radharani. And in the center of Radhakund, underneath the water, there's a sacred place of Ananga Manjari. She represents the union of Radha and Krishna. And when Radhakund floods during the rainy season, the two lakes come together. So a little bit about, and of course her bathing place is there. Janava Baitak, you can go there and worship her. Yeah. So let me chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Etavadeva jigyasyam tattva jigyasunatmana anvaya vyatirehabhyam yatsyat sarvatra sarvada etavad eva jigyasyam tattva jigyasunatmana anvaya vyatirekabhyam yatsyat sarvatra sarvada etavadeva jigyasyam tattva jigyasunatmanaha anvaya vyatirekabhyam yatsyat sarvatra sarvada etavat up to this eva certainly jigyasyam is to be inquired. Tattva, the absolute truth. Jigyasuna, by the student. Atmanaha, of the self. Anvaya, directly. Vyatirekabhyam, indirectly. Yat, whatever. Syat, it may be. Sarvatra, in all space and time. Sarvada, in all circumstances. Translation. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. Please repeat. A person who is searching after the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. So this is first let me say some prayers. Om Agyanatimarandhasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sanyavari Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripashindu Bhaivacha Petitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is a 14-page purport. So I'm only going to be reading a few a few highlights. I was listening to a lecture of Srila Prabhupada, and he was talking about how he was speaking at the University of California at Berkeley, and an Indian girl came up to him and asked him, Swamiji, who is God? And Srila Prabhupada was amazed that this girl, this educated girl coming from India, was asking. She's coming from the great country of India, but she does not know who is God. So most of us are not coming from India, and how fortunate we are to have the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, to hear from him, from his emotional ecstasies. He called these Bhaktivedanta purports. Maybe you haven't heard that before, but he called these Bhaktivedanta purports his emotional ecstasies. These beautiful purports to the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam, and to have the grace to be able to trust his conclusions and to follow his teachings. So these very, very important verses we've been reading the last few days, these are called the 4 nutshell verses, or as Prabhu said yesterday, these seed verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, where just a second. My husband eats a lot of sweets, and there was an ant crawling on this computer. It's on your desk. It's on your desk. But yeah, So in these important verses, the personality of Godhead, God himself is speaking and tells us, Brahma, it is I who was the cause, who was existing before creation, during and after annihilation, and what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. And the next verse says that anything that appears to be of any value, if it is without relationship to him, has no reality. It is only his illusory energy. And then the next verse that was read yesterday, that he exists within everything created and at the same time outside of everything. And today, that anyone searching after the supreme absolute truth can find it in him directly and indirectly, everywhere in all spaces and time. In the Sanskrit, these two words are there, sarvatra, sarvada, in all space and time, in all circumstances. So in other words, the why question, the question with a capital W, right, that's been pondered and bewildered the greatest minds throughout the world, throughout history, the greatest mysteries are being unfolded here in these 4 nutshell verses through the touchstone of the heart of our dear Srila Prabhupada, coming in the line, sacred line of Parampara, revealing the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the sound incarnation of the Lord, coming down in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So yeah, so the who, the why, the where, the when, the how, to approach the supreme person, the supreme goal of life, and how to assimilate this great science of bhakti is all being given here. Srila Prabhupada poured his heart into his Bhaktivedanta purports. So as I said, this purport is 14 pages long. So he wrote in the middle of the night while we who were 1/4 his age were sleeping. And imagine, like I was thinking, sometimes I think, well, if it had been me, I probably would have maybe written a few lines because you got to get to sleep. But no, he's writing 14 pages of his emotional ecstasy. So here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada stresses the importance of hearing from a bona fide spiritual master. And then he says something extraordinary, that even if one happens to not be a human being, and he quotes from the Garuda Purana, that even the worms, birds, yesterday, it was discussed a couple days ago, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We don't care about human rights. We care about rights for all living beings. Even the worms, right? So the verse says, even the worms, the birds, the beasts are assured of elevation to the highest perfection of life if they are completely surrendered to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So what to speak of the philosophers amongst the human beings? In other words, even if someone is a complete fool, grossly attached to materialistic life, but insincere, Prabhupada uses this nice phrase in the purport, in sincere earnestness takes shelter of the Lord under proper guidance. Such a person is guaranteed of success. So I wanted to read a paragraph at the here. 65. Okay. Just one paragraph of this beautiful purport. If even for a moment remembrance of Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is missed, that is the greatest loss. So therefore we should try to chant the holy name incessantly, right? That is the greatest illusion, and that is the greatest anomaly. The Lord can be worshipped in all stages of life. For instance, even in the wombs of their mothers, Maharaj Prahlad and Maharaj Parikshit worshipped the Lord. Even in his very childhood, at the age of only 5 years, Dhruva Maharaj worshipped the Lord. Even in full youth, Maharaj Ambarish worshipped the Lord. Even at the last stage of his frustration and old age, Maharaj Dhritarashtra worshipped the Lord. Ajamil worshipped the Lord even at the point of death, and Chitraketu worshipped the Lord even in heaven and in hell. In the Nrsimha Purana, it is said that as hellish inhabitants begin to chant the holy name of the Lord, they began to be elevated from hell toward heaven. Dhruva Maharaj, Durvasa Muni has also supported this view. Simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, the inhabitants of hell became released from their hellish persecution. Amazing, huh? So these are the 4 seed-like nutshell verses, these essential verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam has, anybody know how many verses are in Srimad Bhagavatam? 18,000. 18,000 verses. So of all the 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, I have a question for all of you. Urmila, if you know the answer, please don't. Okay. So of all the 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we've just read these 4 nutshell verses, does anyone know which is the most important verse of the whole entire Srimad Bhagavatam? Anyone want to take a guess, or a few guesses? Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Okay, someone else is saying the first one. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yatonvaya. Okay, any other ideas? What is the most important of all? Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I don't remember the Sanskrit, but there's a verse that Ishwara Puri gave to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
What's your name, Prabhu?
My name? Prabhudas.
Prabhudas.
But I heard this from Keshava Maharaj, it's not mine.
He's so humble. I'm saying, you know the verse, and he's saying, no, it wasn't me, it was Keshava Maharaj. Anyway, so it's amazing. So I want to share this verse with you. If you want to write it down, people who like to take notes, it's Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 40th verse. But first I want to explain a little bit. 11 to 40. So I want to explain a little bit. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Varanasi, the Mayavadi sannyasis were criticizing him for not studying Vedanta with them, but he was just dancing and chanting in the street with people they considered to be fools and fanatics. Why aren't you studying Vedanta with us? And he told them that his spiritual master Ishwara Puri Maharaj had taught him a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. And Ishwara Puri Maharaj said that this verse is the essence of all the Bhagavatam's instructions. Therefore, Ishwara Puri repeated this verse again and again and again to Lord Chaitanya. So this verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, and it was spoken by Narada Muni to Srila Vyasadeva to teach him the essence of what is Bhagavat Dharma. So you ready? You may be surprised. Okay, I'm going to read it in Sanskrit, and then I'll read the translation. Evam vrata sva priyanama kirtya jatanurago dritachitta uchai hastyato ruditi roti gayati unmadavan nrityati lokabhayaha. By chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee is fixed in his vow as an eternal servant of the Lord, and he gradually becomes very much attached to a particular name and form with ecstatic love. He laughs very loudly, or cries, or shouts. Sometimes he sings and dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to public opinion. In other words, this is the perfectional stage of life, when someone's devotional service to the Supreme Lord is enriched, awakened by ecstatic love beyond the scope of worldly affairs. I was really struck by, Urmila, by your teaching this career Dharma. It was so interesting to me. And I was thinking, this is actually, it's like the question is, what awakens your heart? What makes you come alive? So I think that's actually the gradual step-by-step progression to truly being awakened in the deepest sense by this ecstatic love. You know, what makes you come alive? You know, is it art? Is it business? Is it this? Is it, you know? And so it's like anyway, that's a particular thought. So yeah. So of course, this is not to be imitated. You may be thinking, well, yeah, that's easy to imitate, and how Prabhupada would, you know, someone came in the Vrindavan temple smoking a beedi and then was rolling on the ground, and the devotees asked Prabhupada, what should we do? And Prabhupada said, you should have kicked him, you know. So this is not to be imitated, but the symptoms of ecstatic love are listed in Nectar of Devotion. If we had time, we could look that up. But one of them is utilization of to not waste a moment of time. So wow, which one of us could say, you know, do you waste time? I mean, I feel like I waste a lot of time in my life. So a symptom of ecstatic love is to not waste even a moment. That's hard to imitate, right? So, but this verse is there. So, yeah, this is our goal. You know, we're not meant to remain in the headspace full of knowledge, but it's supposed to sink down to the heart space and awaken ecstatic love in our hearts. This is we're meant to realize this practice of bhakti by chanting the holy name. So on this point, there's another very important verse that I wanted to share with you just in conclusion, and then maybe we actually have a little time for questions. But toward the end of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya speaks a verse that I think also speaks to this conclusion. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Lila, chapter 20, verse 37, for those of you who like to note down verses. This is a beautiful verse. Prema dhana vina vyarta daridra jivan dasa kari vetana more deha premadan. Without love of Godhead, my life is useless. Therefore, I pray that you accept me as your servant and give me a salary of ecstatic love of God. Beautiful, huh? So this is our goal. This is what we're supposed to be doing here in the Krishna consciousness movement. We're supposed to wake up, come alive, and be awakened to love of God. So thank you all so much, and we actually do have some time for questions if Mahaprabhu will allow it. Yes, Purushottam Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This verse, Hare Krishna, this verse is speaking about searching for God, and it reminds me of Parikshit Maharaj, and also thinking of myself. I found Krishna consciousness, so to speak, when I was 17, but I still feel I'm searching for Krishna. Sometimes maybe we think we know Krishna already, and then also even the gopis looking for Krishna in the forest, even every day people look for Krishna. I can't wait to finally meet him.
Yeah.
And Vrajvasis ask us, are you first time in Vrindavan? And then sometimes the devotees like, oh, but you're 20 times. And I felt like I turned this question around and asking them, with your blessings, maybe I can be first time now in Vrindavan.
Very
So
beautiful.
how do you feel like, how can we
But
stay
let me
there?
just repeat that because that's so beautiful. So Purushottam Krishna Prabhu is saying when he goes to Vrindavan and residents there ask him if he's been there before, he said, he likes to say, maybe by your blessings I can come to Vrindavan, actually enter Vrindavan for the first time. So beautiful. So of course there are different levels on which we can enter Vrindavan. We can come and say, oh, this is a dusty village in Uttar Pradesh. Why doesn't somebody get some proper sewage system around here? Or that's one level, right? Or we can on the next level, deeper, we can have some inkling that maybe there's something going on here that I just don't get, And then on the deepest level, these sadhus are seeing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna at every moment, So sorry I interrupted you. So.
No, the question, how can we remain in that fresh spirit of searching for Krishna?
Yeah.
Though we may think we've already found him. When the gopis searching for him every day, or the Brajvasis.
Yeah. In one place, Srila Prabhupada was talking about the Goswamis and how they were in Vrindavan always, we know from the, Sat Goswami Astakam that they were searching, hey Krishna, hey Radha, where are you? Where are you at Govardhan? Are you on the bank of the Yamuna? But in one place, Srila Prabhupada said, they were searching for Radha and Krishna. They were searching for Krishna, and they never found him. So, I think it's an arrogance, it's an entitlement when I think, yes, I know Krishna. I've been to Vrindavan 500 times, or sometimes you meet people, not just to pick on people from India, but sometimes when you're distributing books, you meet someone from India and you say, oh, I have Bhagavad Gita. I know Bhagavad Gita. I've been reading Bhagavad Gita since you should go anytime. So, that sense of entitlement, it's very toxic. It's like a toxic drug. Or Queen Kunti Devi says that Janmaishwarya Shruta Shribir Edamanamadak Puman said, good birth, like birth in an affluent country, you don't have to worry where your next meal is going to come from. Janma Aishwarya power, Shruta great learning, Shribir beauty, all these things are like different brands of intoxication. You might walk through the airport and scoff at these people are so addicted to all of these bottles of liquor. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I was saying to Anuttama Prabhu when we walked through customs that Bhaktivinoda Thakur scoffs at people who drink liquor. He says, the charming bottles charm their eyes and draw their heart's embrace. The slaves of wine can never rise from what we call disgrace. Wow. So we might scoff at that type of intoxication or, look at these women, all these perfumes, they're going to spend $100 on a bottle of perfume or, whatever it is, that people are addicted to. But what am I addicted to? Am I addicted to so many things? The fact that I think I'm greatly educated or I'm a hotshot American or this or that, whatever it is that, if I think I'm so beautiful, so learned, so renounced, so, whatever. These are all different types of intoxication that prohibit us from chanting the holy name, prohibit us from understanding this beautiful verse, which is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. Any other questions? Yes, Prabhu? Not only questions, but reflections or criticisms or complaints?
Because you're a Prabhupada disciple, so you might give us the right response. So we very often hear how Srila Prabhupada accommodated different type of people. He has not rejected based on anything, he just with mercy and so on. But here you have given us one example about this person who came in the temple and then Prabhupada said, just kick him out. Can you shed a little bit light on it?
Well, Srila Prabhupada had so many moods. So the question is, shed light on this instance of Prabhupada saying that he was this man who came in the temple smoking a bidi, then starts rolling on the ground as though he's in ecstasy. And the devotees asked, what should we have done? And Prabhupada said, you should have kicked him. And so, Prabhupada has so many moods. I know once we were in Russia, and one of the devotees said, I've only heard stories about Prabhupada blasting people. I never heard any other stories except Prabhupada smashed, Prabhupada blasted. But Prabhupada was like the previous purport that you read mentioned, the devotee is is like a touchstone. So Srila Prabhupada was like a many-faceted jewel. And he was very funny. He was very